back? All right, just want to make sure. Brian, thank you for being there on most of those stops today. And I know you have a full-time job, but this chairing the county commission business is a full-time job as well. Always good to be joined by the sheriff. Chris, thank you so much, and your folks along the way today for keeping everyone safe. Who else? Do we have other folks that we want to recognize? Brian, other commissioners you want to recognize, or did you do that? I missed.
We can't have a meeting with a lot of people out for, but
sure. Thank you. Absolutely. Oh, I see. They're separated. Everybody can turn around. They're in 3 different spots. Unless you all want to sit down and we can have a public meeting and transact some business. No, best not to do that. But I want to touch on just a couple of things, and then we'll get to your questions. We'll have the opportunity to ask questions. David, over here with the mic stand, we can line up there, and everybody can have their opportunity to have their say. And as Brian outlined, if you have some personal issues you want to talk about, constituent service directly affecting you or your family or somebody you know and love, you don't have to stand up and ask that question in a public forum. We'll be here afterwards, and my staff will be here afterwards to deal with that, so you don't actually have to bear something personal in public. So I'm going to touch on 2 things before we get to your questions. First, a question of the economy, and then second, this question about the Iran agreement. Those are 2 things that I mentioned today at the chamber lunch, but these are 2 major issues and challenges we're facing. First, the economy. Certainly we're better off than we were a number of years ago. We have economic growth, unemployment is down, but unemployment being down is also as a result of fewer people participating in the workplace, and that is not a good sign. We've got folks that have given up looking for jobs. And we've got folks that don't have the skills needed to get a better paying job or to get full-time hours. We also have young people that are looking for jobs, their first job, and are having a very hard time getting it. And so while we're better, it doesn't mean that we're good. We still got a lot of work to do. And simply because we have some economic growth doesn't mean that we can't have more and better economic growth. And from my perspective, I always think about that family who's in the middle, the family in the middle. And the last couple of years have been a disaster for the family in the middle. Obamacare didn't make their health care better or more affordable. The economic recession didn't mean they had better economic opportunity. It meant that if they owned a house, it might be worth less. Or if they don't have a house, it makes it even more difficult to get a loan in order to get into it. And perhaps they don't have the opportunity to switch jobs because they need skills. They need more skills and better skills to get the next job. Now we've got great things happening with the community college, great things happening with education and training. Those things are positives, but we need to have more of that. And at the national level, we need to have tax reform so we can have real economic growth, both corporate and personal income tax reform. I can go on, but let me just stop there. The Iran agreement. I just got back from a trip to Israel. I don't do much international travel, actually much at all. But going to Israel was very important, especially this August, especially with this discussion about the Iran deal the president has negotiated. Now, I've looked closely at the agreement. I've looked closely at the ramifications of approving this deal or disapproving of this deal. I also examined the security risks last week in Israel to the state of Israel. And we met with the president of Israel. We also met with the prime minister. And Benjamin Netanyahu outlined very clearly, like he did before Congress, why a bad deal with Iran is a bad deal and should be rejected. Well, it's clear that this is an existential threat to Israel. They have enemies all around them. And the close enemy to Iran is Israel. The faraway enemy is the United States. Make no mistake about it, this regime in Iran is bent on regional dominance, but also threatening our way of life. Now, I don't throw that around lightly, but if you look at what Iran's doing, if you look at what ISIS is doing, if you look at this extreme ideology, they hate our way of life. The idea that women are sitting with men, the idea that we have greater education, we've got greater freedoms, we have the freedom of expression, we have the freedom to worship as we choose, much less the fact that we're largely a Christian nation. They absolutely hate our ways of life. And they want to roll us back to centuries ago, living like in the Dark Ages. And on top of that, in the near term, their mechanism to do that is a bomb, a nuclear bomb. So agreeing to a bad deal means that within a decade, Iran will have access not to a bomb or two bombs, but to an arsenal.